Okay, so this is the part where I test all of the servos. I have just a cardboard box here, and if you look at the inside of the box here, that's all where all the wires come out. And note that this is simulating that the wing is upside down and on your workbench. So this is the right side of the wing, and this is the left side of the wing because it's upside down. And so this is right side up in the sense that that's the throttle, that's the elevator, that's the rudder. Okay. And so the other thing I've done is I've gone ahead and labeled the Y connector for the flaps. And so it says flap aux 1, it's in the aux 1 channel. And I've also labeled a left and a right. Even in this case, it doesn't matter. I know it doesn't matter which one you plug it into. I like to always have them labeled so that when it does matter, it's still the same labeling. So I got a left flap and a right flap. And so the I'm going to, because the left flap, you can see the left flap moving over there, I'm going to plug the Y connector in for the left flap, okay, into the Y extension, and the right flap wire is in there somewhere, so I'm going to plug the right flap, there's the right flap wire. And I plug the Y connection for the right flap, and I can see the blue label, blue label, black wire to black wire, plug them in. Okay, so that's the flaps are plugged in. And because the ailerons have a nice long extension on them, here's the left aileron, and here's the left aileron in the aileron channel. And notice that's even blue and white, my normal color configurations. So I have a right and a left aileron for the Y connector, and I'll plug that in. Black to black wire, and aileron to aileron, and that goes in, there we go, all the way. And then the right aileron has a nice big connection. Right aileron on the Y connector to the right aileron servo wire, and that's blue to blue and black wire to black wire, and blue to blue, black wire to black wire, and in it goes, wait a minute, let's get it in there nice and tight. Okay, that's good. So those are all in. Now the last thing to do is plug in the three other ones here. So this is the throttle, and I'm going to just plug that into the throttle channel. So on the AR7610, the black wire is up. I'm pretty certain that on the 6210 the black wire is down from that labeling. But just check to make sure. You got a little guide here that says negative, positive, and the signal wire, a little map right there. So negative is on the top side facing you. Okay, so let's grab the elevator wire. And so the elevator wire is next to the aileron. Black wire is up, and in he goes. So elevator is connected, and the rudder, find the rudder wire under here. Okay, there we go. And so let's plug the rudder wire in. Okay, so that's everybody connected, and I'm going to put the battery in the gear channel. I could put it in aux 2, but I'm sort of pretending this is a 6210, which you can both use either one. And so now let me get the radio set up, and oh, by the way, one other thing, I have the rudder servo and the throttle servo up in this direction, the elevator servo in that direction, so it's less likely for the arms to interfere with one another. And that's exactly how I will do it in the aircraft. Okay, let me get the radio set up. I'll be right back. Okay, radio is on, and the black wire from the battery here is going to go up and into the gear channel, and that should light up the receiver. Okay, so receiver's lit and the antenna, remote antenna's lit, so everything's good. Now, I don't know if you heard it or not, but all of the servos went chink, and they're all centered. So I'm going to start with the throttle. Okay, first off, I'm going to change this timer system because it bugs me every time it starts and stops. Okay. So now I've got the throttle actually in neutral, in the 50% position, okay, and that means that the servo arm for the throttle will be all the way out to the right as you see it here. I'm going to take this off. Don't lose a little screw. And I'm going to put this on as close as I can to having that centered. Okay, a lot of times you can't get it exactly centered, and that's okay, but I think I can probably do a better job than that. Let me turn it around. Let me see if that turning it around makes a difference. Okay. Alright, that's the best I'm going to do. You can see that it's not exactly centered, but that's okay. So now I'm going to take this, and these arms have a little rough side and a smooth side, and it's rough down in that, and that just sort of prevents it from slipping. So I'm going to just sort of set that in there and start the screw so it doesn't fall out. Now I'll tighten all this later, but I do want to tighten this one enough to make sure we're going in the right direction here. Okay, so the nice thing about this is you don't know exactly how far this can stick out because it'll likely bump the edge of the fuselage, but it's adjustable. Okay, so now if I push the throttle up to 100%, that goes up, and that's the way it needs to go. So we're going up and down, up and down, up and down, and that's the throttle. And that's at 60%, and that's all you need for up and down. So the throttle is reversed because when you push the throttle in that direction, it opens the throat of the carburetor. Okay, so that one's in good shape. Let me stop a minute and I'll do the next servo in just a second. Okay, so now you see I have the elevator servo with its arm on it, and it's going to go out in that direction. That's the way it shows it in the manual, and that's a good way for it to go. So now if I pull back on the elevator, so I'm pulling the elevator stick back, and you can see that that's going forward. Well, here's the elevator. So if you pull back, you want this to go up, okay? So the airplane goes up, okay? And so that's reversed. Shouldn't, I mean, so for the control horn back here on the bottom to go up, the servo arm has to push the push rod that way because it's on the bottom of the elevator for it to go up, and it's going in the wrong direction. So I'm going to go ahead in here and servo setup. Instead of travel, we'll do, well, that's kind of hard to read with the glare, okay? So we'll do reverse, and we'll reverse the elevator, okay? So now the elevator is reversed, okay? Now if I pull back, it goes that way. So now it's going in the right direction. And you can see that those two arms are not going to touch, so that's good. Next will be the rudder. I'll be back in a second. Okay, as you can see now, I've got the rudder and nose wheel steering arm in. And so this side is the nose wheel steering, that side is the rudder. And if you look at the rudder itself, okay, here's the rudder, there's the control arm. So if the rudder is needs to go to the right to turn to the right, so if that's going to turn to the right, then the push rod needs to come out the back of the airplane. So if I move the rudder stick here to the right, okay, then you can see that's going in the wrong direction. So the rudder channel here needs to be reversed. So let's reverse the rudder channel. So rudder channel is now reversed. Okay, so now if I move the rudder, okay, to the right, moving the rudder arm to the right, that push rod will go out the end of the airplane and we'll turn the rudder to the right. So that's now in the right direction. So that's good. That's good. Right, up. Throttle going forward means that the throttle is opening up. So those three are good. Alright, I'll be back to explain the wing ones in just a second. Okay, as you can see, I have the two Aileron servos with arms on it. Aileron servo arms always go to the outboard tip of the wing. They both point to the tip of the wing. So these arms are pointing to the tip of the wing. Remember, this is the right one, that's the left one, so the right one. And here's the right wing. Okay, so here's the right wing, and there's where the aileron hole is. And so for the right wing, if you turn to the right, let me just show you here. When you turn the aileron to the right, the aileron goes up. Okay, you want to turn to the right, aileron goes up. So I'm going to move the stick to the right, and it's going. It's going to push the aileron down. Okay, so in this case it's going to push this down, and that's going to from the bottom point of view, which means it's going to turn to the right. So that is going in the correct direction. And if that one's going in the correct direction, the other one is opposite. So we do not need to reverse the aileron channel. Okay, so let me stop here, get the flaps ready, and I'll be right back. Okay, as you can see, I've got the flaps with the arm down at 100%, down all the way. And note that here's the flap. They need to travel in the same direction, and for the flap to go down, it only goes down, so it's neutral right here. So when it goes down, it's going to go this way, up this way, so that arm has to travel backwards. And so for the programming, get the programming right here. If you look at the reverse, okay, the flap channel, which is next to aux2, which is aux1, is reversed, okay, and then in the flap system I have the 0 position, meaning the position 0 means the flaps are up, means that the flap is down minus 100, so it's down all the way this way. And then I have the next one at minus 50 and then at plus 20. So if I move it from position 0, which is minus 100, down to 50, down to plus 20. Now we'll adjust that percentage based on how far the flaps can move. And I also have a built-in delay here of 3-second speed, and it's on switch D. And I don't have any elevator offset because I just don't know what it is. We'll figure that out when we first fly it. So the flaps are moving. Remember, in the system setup we have one aileron and one flap channel, and they're both on a Y connector, and the flap channel here is aux1, and obviously the elevator, the aileron channel is on the aileron. So those flaps are now working. They both go in the same direction, and that's why the arms are pointing. So when we put on the servos when we install the servos and we install the control horns for the flaps, we need to make sure that these are all going to work in that direction. But at least they're working. Okay, ailerons are working opposite one another. Elevator is going in the correct direction, rudder is going in the correct direction, and throttle is going in the correct direction. So basically everything is tested, ready to go into the airplane, and so that'll be coming up in the next set of videos. Okay, one last thing I'm going to add is when you are changing things in the system setup, before you go into system setup, I always unplug the battery, and then after you're done in the system setup, I normally turn the radio off and back on before I turn this receiver back on by plugging the battery in. And that seems to ensure that whatever system setup changes you made are saved in the memory of the radio, and that the new system setup will go into this correctly. So I just do that as a matter of course. Didn't have any problems with it, but if you do have a problem, make sure you do that. Thank you.